Aces. And finally, Indiana got a win against the Aces out there in Las Vegas. Remember, the last time these teams met up, it was last season in the semifinals, postseason. And Indiana was so close in that game 5 to defeating the Aces. We ended up having Kelsey Mitchell play until the wheels fell off. You've heard that expression. Aaliyah Boston fouling out of the game, some bogus calls there.
That's the wound this whole night is built on. 9 months ago, in this exact arena, Indiana's season ended in overtime. And Ross and a lot of Fever fans still swear it should never have gotten that far. So when she says, finally, she means it. But nobody saw the way they'd get it back coming.
So Indiana met the Aces again today and won that game. Congratulations to the Fever for the 84-68 win. Also, Indiana was out the current player of the month, the reigning player of the month for June, and that is, of course, Caitlin Clark. And
84-68 on the road against the defending champions without Caitlin Clark. Read that back, and it almost sounds like a typo. Clark sat for the 3rd straight game with a back injury, the reigning Eastern Conference Player of the Month, the biggest draw in the sport, watching in street clothes. And Indiana still walked into Las Vegas and won by 16. Now, before you picture some track meet where the Fever just outscored everybody, look closer, because 84 points is actually low for this team. They didn't win this with offense. There's one number buried in this box score that has nothing to do with who scored the most, and it's the real reason this happened. Hold on to that, because I'm coming back to it.
And the other side of the coin, you have the Las Vegas Aces, A'ja Wilson, Player of the Month for the Western Conference. Eastern Conference, Caitlin Clark, Player of the Month. Western Conference, A'ja Wilson, Player of the Month. Both teams without their 2 superstars. And so, as you always say, when you know sports, other people have to step.
Ross frames it as both teams missing a superstar, and on paper, that's fair. A'ja Wilson sat too, the 4-time MVP, out with an ankle injury, the reigning Western Conference Player of the Month. 2 of the biggest names in the league, both in warm-ups, both cheering from the bench. Even outcome, right? Not quite. And this is where it gets interesting. Aces coach Becky Hammon admitted before tip that if this had been a playoff game, Wilson almost certainly would have played. Vegas chose to rest her because it's July and they can afford to. Indiana had no such luxury. Clark's back doesn't care what month it is, so one team sat its star to stay fresh for the games that count, and the other was simply doing without. Same optics, completely different situations. And consider the gap this happened across. Coming in, Las Vegas sat on top of the entire league at 15-5, riding a winning streak. Indiana came in 6th at 11-8, a good but not great team on paper. The team that had every reason to treat this like a throwaway July stop on the second night of a road trip is the one that came out and took it.
And one of the things that stood out to me right off the jump was Lexi Hull. Yes, Lexi Hull. She's been struggling this season, but you could see she was aggressive. Getting into the lane, getting to the basket. She came out aggressive. Monique Billings, she also came out aggressive.
Ross keeps circling back to Lexi Hull, and there's a reason. Hull has had a rough season by her standards, the kind of stretch where the shot won't fall and the confidence quietly leaks out. So watching her come out aggressive, attacking the rim instead of drifting to the corner and hoping, that's the tell that this team showed up ready. Hull finished with 10. And the shot that mattered most came at the buzzer, a jumper at the end of the second quarter that gave Indiana a 42-41 halftime lead. Little moment, huge swing in a building where Indiana has historically found ways to lose. Monique Billings brought that same edge off the tip. When your 2 stars are in street clothes, this is exactly what has to happen. The role players can't wait for permission. They have to go take the game. And against the champions on their own floor, Indiana's did.
The team, we did yell at the television at times because we started missing layups and the free throws. not good. So that first quarter, I'm like, you're 3 for 8 from the free throw line. Like we got to do better there. And you missed some bunnies and things like that, some layups.
Now, let's not pretend this was clean, because it wasn't. Ross was yelling at her television in the first quarter, and she had every right to be. 3 for 8 from the free throw line to start. Missed layups. Missed what she calls bunnies, the shots you're supposed to make in your sleep. Vegas actually won that first quarter, 24-23. If you turned this game on for the opening 5 minutes, you'd have assumed the champs were about to run away with it. And that's the part that should stick with you. Indiana played an ugly, sloppy, nervous opening quarter, on the road, in the building where their season died, against the best team in the league. And they were still right there. A bad start against that opponent usually snowballs into a 20-point deficit by halftime. Instead, the Fever were about to flip the entire thing. The question is how a team shooting like that in the first quarter becomes the team that wins by 16.
And sometimes when you have time off, you think, okay, they have time off, they can rest a little bit, they can also finally have practices, string together some practices, because WNBA schedules don't really allow that. Remember, before this break, Indiana had played a Tuesday, a Thursday, a Saturday, a Monday, a Wednesday.
Part of the answer starts before the game even tipped. Ross points out something people outside this league constantly underrate, which is what the schedule actually does to a body. Before this break, Indiana played a Tuesday, then a Thursday, then a Saturday, then a Monday, then a Wednesday. 5 games crammed into 9 days, no real practice time, just survive, travel, survive, travel. Then, for the first time in weeks, they got an actual pause, a week off, time to rest legs, time to string practices together, time to breathe. For a team held together by hardship contracts and duct tape for 2 seasons, that break is not a small thing. And they didn't limp into it either. They capped their home stand by blasting the Los Angeles Sparks by 24. So this was a confident, rested team walking into Vegas, not a tired one. But rest is a double-edged sword in this league, and Ross knows it, which is exactly where she goes next.
Times though, having time off works against you because you've been in a little bit of a flow and now you kind of chill. And I kind of thought we didn't start out badly, but we were like, man, what's with the free throws, etc., which of course we see sometimes anyway. And it wasn't like Las Vegas was that much better. But I was glad to see that they got the rust off.
Because sometimes time off does the opposite of what you'd expect. You get out of rhythm. The legs are fresh, but the timing is gone, and you come out flat and rusty, which is exactly what that first quarter looked like. Ross was honest about it. It wasn't that Las Vegas was playing some brilliant brand of basketball early. Both teams were sloppy. The difference is that Indiana shook the rust off, and Vegas never really did. And there was one stretch where you could feel the whole game tilt. It happened in the third quarter, and it turned a coin flip into a comfortable win. That's where Indiana stopped surviving this game and started taking it. So let's talk about who actually did the taking.
Aaliyah Boston, 18 and 10, big double-double there. Also had 2 blocks. Kelsey Mitchell, big time with 27 points. You know, it's so interesting because we're so used to Kelsey being Kelsey that sometimes it's easy to overlook her when doing these recaps because it's sort of like, okay, that's just Kelsey being Kelsey. But no, 27 points is big time for Kelsey Mitchell.
Kelsey Mitchell, 27 points. And Ross makes a point that's easy to skate past. We are so used to Kelsey being Kelsey that a night like this almost gets shrugged off, like of course she scored 27. But stop and sit with where she scored it. This is the same arena, the same floor, where 9 months ago, Kelsey Mitchell went down in a playoff elimination game and had to be helped off the court and taken to a hospital. That wasn't a rolled ankle. She was later diagnosed with rhabdomyolysis, a condition where muscle tissue breaks down, and she described losing feeling in her legs, a numb, paralyzing sensation where she couldn't move. Her season and her team's season ended in this building. And she comes back to Las Vegas months later and drops 27 on them. 7 of 18 from the field and 10 of 12 from the free throw line. Ice cold when it counted. That is not just Kelsey being Kelsey. That's a statement. Then there's Aaliyah Boston, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, her 6th double-double of the season, anchoring the defense and the glass at the same time. And the sequence that cracked this game open belonged to both of them. In the third quarter, Boston, Mitchell, and Sophie Cunningham each buried a three-pointer during one decisive run. Mitchell got fouled, shooting from beyond the arc, calmly stepped up and made all 3 free throws, then came back and finished a three-point play. In a matter of possessions, a one-point game became a double-digit lead the Aces never erased. The stars everybody said were missing from this game, Indiana's showed up anyway.
Sophie Cunningham, I mean, she's just knocking down shots. Her release is so quick on her shot, and boy, point that finger, Sophie. Okay, point that finger right all the way in that follow through. All right, Sophie, 9 points, 3 of 6 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. A rebound and an assist as well. Raven Johnson chipping in 6 points, also 6 rebounds and 2 assists.
And it wasn't a two-woman show. Sophie Cunningham was locked in from deep, and if you watch Ross break down that quick release, you understand why Vegas couldn't recover once those shots started falling. Cunningham has always been an edge and energy player, and on this night, the energy came with efficiency. 3 of 5 from 3 on her way to 9 points, every one of them at a moment when the Aces needed a stop and didn't get one. Then look at Raven Johnson. 6 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and a layup during that third quarter surge that pushed the lead to 13. This is a second-year guard filling real minutes with the franchise player in a suit, and she's out there rebounding like a forward and running the offense without turning it over. That's the whole identity of this Fever team. It is never about one name carrying them. It's a group that learned through 2 brutal, injury-wrecked seasons that everybody eats or nobody does. And on this floor, on this night, a lot of people ate.
9 points from Cheyenne Parker-Tyus and 9 from Melissa Smith, the former Indiana Fever player. She had 10 rebounds and 9 points. She's playing very well for Vegas. Chelsea Gray with 10 points and 6 assists. Jewel Lloyd with 12 points, 3 rebounds. Jackie Young, 15 points and 4 assists, but also 5 turnovers.
Now flip it around and look at what happened to the Aces, because this is where it gets a little poetic. 9 points and 10 rebounds from Melissa Smith, and Ross reminds you who that is, a former Indiana Fever player. Indiana drafted Smith 2nd overall in 2022, then traded her away, and now she starts in the front court for the team that ended their season. She's not the only one. Brianna Turner, also a former Fever player, was in there too. 6 points on 3 of 3 shooting, with 5 rebounds and a block. And there's an extra wrinkle with Turner. She and Aces guard Jackie Young won a national championship together at Notre Dame back in 2018. Old teammates, now on the same side. 2 players Indiana moved on from, on the floor trying to beat them, and the Fever beat them anyway. But the number that actually sank Vegas's night is Jackie Young. 15 points, 4 assists, and 5 turnovers, all by herself. The reigning champs got 15 from one of their best players and just as many gifts handed back the other way. When your go-to guard is coughing it up 5 times, on a night your MVP is in street clothes, against a team playing free and loose with nothing to lose, that's how the defending champion loses at home. And it feeds directly into the number I told you to remember.
Indiana turned the ball over 7 times. That's it. 7 total times of turnovers. Very, very good to say the least. And the Aces with 13 turnovers, so almost twice the turnovers. And I already told you that 5 turnovers came from Jackie Young. 5 by herself. Indiana had 7.
Here it is. Turnovers. Indiana gave the ball away 7 times the entire game. 7. The Las Vegas Aces gave it away 13, nearly double. And 5 of those 13, as we just said, came from Jackie Young alone. That is the number. Not who scored the most, not the shooting splits, just the simple, unglamorous fact that one team protected the basketball and the other kept donating it. Think about what a 7-turnover game means over 40 minutes against a defense that good. It means almost every possession ended with a shot on the rim. It means Indiana was constantly getting looks while Vegas was constantly giving points and possessions away. in a game where the Fever only scored 84, where the offense sputtered early, where their franchise player never touched the floor. That turnover margin is the difference between a heartbreaking road loss and a 16-point statement. But turnovers are only half of the equation, and the other half is where Indiana truly took this game and refused to give it back.
And we look at Indiana's rebounds, 39 rebounds to the Aces 30. So out-rebounded the Aces as well. And when I look at offensive rebounds, Indiana had 13 offensive rebounds. That means you're getting after it. You're going for it. 13 offensive rebounds, and we only gave up 6.
The other half is on the glass. Indiana out-rebounded the defending champions 39-30 on the Aces' own floor. And here's the stat inside the stat. 13 of those were offensive rebounds, and Indiana gave up only 6. 13 extra possessions clawed back off missed shots. That's what Ross means when she says this team was getting after it. Every one of those offensive boards is a dagger, a second chance the Aces thought they'd escaped. Put it all together. Indiana held the defending champions to 68 points and just 21% from 3. They won the turnover battle by 6. They won the rebounding battle by 9, with 13 second-chance possessions, and they did all of it without Caitlin Clark. That is not an offensive explosion. That's a team that decided it was going to outwork, out-tough, and out-rebound the best team in the league, and did. And now for the part Ross mentioned almost in passing, the part that should land the hardest. When she said, finally, Indiana got a win in Las Vegas, she wasn't only talking about last year. Indiana had never won a regular season game in this building. They had lost their previous 11 trips to Las Vegas, 11 straight. Add the playoff series that ended here in overtime, and this arena was for years where Indiana's seasons went to die. And the night they finally broke it, they did it shorthanded on the second stop of a 4-game road trip against the defending champions with the franchise player they built everything around sitting in a suit on the bench. That's not a lucky July win. That's a wall coming down.
Win once again, Indiana without the superstar player of the month, Caitlin Clark. Then Vegas without the superstar player of the month, A'ja Wilson. It was the clash of the player of the monthless teams.
Ross called it the clash of the player of the monthless teams, and she's right that both sides were missing a giant. But don't let the symmetry fool you into thinking this was just two depleted rosters trading buckets. One of these teams treated a July road game like it mattered, and it happens to be the one that had every excuse not to. So here's where it goes from here. Indiana heads to Los Angeles on Wednesday, then on to Phoenix, and then, on Sunday, they run it back against these very same Aces. And that is the game that tells us what this really was. Because if A'ja Wilson is back on the floor by then, and Caitlin Clark is cleared to return off that back injury the way her coach has been hinting, then Sunday isn't a clash of who's missing, it's a clash of who's whole. Remember, both Clark and Wilson were voted all-star starters for the game on July 25th in Chicago, two of the 3 or 4 biggest names in the sport. And Sunday could be the first time all season they're actually on the floor against each other. And we'll finally learn whether Indiana just caught the champs napping in July, or whether this Fever team has genuinely closed the gap on the best in the league. So what do you think this was? A fluky win over a Vegas team that didn't care? Or the night Indiana proved they belong in that conversation for real? Tell me in the comments. Tell me who you've got on Sunday. And if you want the full breakdown of that rematch the second it's over, do me a favor and hit subscribe so you don't miss it. Give this one a like if the Fever made a believer out of you, and I'll see you for the next one.